it kind of just wasn't calculating, wasn't his thing. And so because it wasn't really his thing, and he was more into like energy, a vast majority of the performance people have at work, or in a race. I mean, I've taught you guys about this before. Like I would literally race better when both of my parents were there versus like only one or none of them being there. And he's already sitting in the room, and the player got called into the room, like I guess mobily or something. And he walks into this room, closes the door behind him, like this glass wall behind him. It's a necessary fact of running a business asset. And so the CPA says, you know, it's a byword in our profession that no one enjoys wielding the axe, and consequently, the custom is developed of getting it over as soon as possible. And usually in the following way, you know, sit down, Mr. Smith, the season's over, and we don't seem to need any more assignments. We don't have any more assignments for you. Of course, you understood you were only employed for the busy season anyway, etc., etc. You're done. And the effect on these people is one of disappointment and a feeling being let down, because most of them are in the accounting field for life and they retain no particular love for the firm. It drops them so casually, because these guys are gonna see each other again and again and again, season after season. And so this guy decides that he's gonna differentiate himself, and he recently decided to let their seasonal personnel go with a little more tact and a little more consideration. Understand that this only has to take like 2 minutes, and yet this little shift, this little change in the way that they behave will have a humongous impact on the actual end result that they create and the impact that they leave on these employees before they go. They just spend a little bit of extra time, it can create a massive, massive, massive amount of additional goodwill, which is really, really, really powerful. And so he says that, you know, he calls each one in, one after another, only after carefully thinking over their work during the winter. And then after they come in, and he says something like this. He says, Mr. Smith, you've done a fine job, if they have, and you know, that time we sent you to Newark, you had a tough assignment. You were on the spot, but you came through with flying colors, and we want to know that we want you to know the firm is proud of you. What he does is he gives very, 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 very powerful, and this is it right here. If you want to build up pride, you give specific praise that is relevant to the work that others do, or relevant to their characteristics, or relevant to their personality. And then after you walk through that, now you've got the stuff, you tell them, you know, look, you've gone a long way. Wherever you're working, you're gonna absolutely crush it. And you help them genuinely build face, and you pump up their personality on top of this huge pedestal, and that they're just super, like others are so awesome and so powerful, and you are just this little guy on the ground. Even if you're a mile above them, I don't care. You're a little guy on the ground, and they are the coolest people ever on the planet, and they are way above you, and they've done a phenomenal job. Sacrifice ego, and if you do that, you will exponentially expand the amount of impact, joy, and happiness that comes to these workers after they have to get terminated. It says if you were on the spot, but you came through, you absolutely crushed it, and the firm believes in you. We believe in you. I believe in you. And the firm, we're all rooting for you, and we don't want you to forget it. And the effect of this, when people leave, is they go away feeling a whole lot better about being fired. They don't feel let down. And they know if they need more work for them, if they have more work for them, then they would keep on giving it to him. It just wasn't possible at the time. Giving it to whoever was working. And because of that, the effect of that is if they need them again the next season, they come to them with personal affection. They're very, very happy to come back year after year after year. At one session of the course, 2 class members were kind of discussing this exact same concept, and more specifically, the negative effects of fault finding. You guys got to make sure that you do not look for faults. If you fire somebody after telling them all the wrong things they did, they're gonna feel like crap. They're gonna think you're a jerk, even if you're right. Tell them all the positive, great things they did, they're gonna love you. Same thing here. Looking at the effects of fault finding versus the effects of letting the other person save face, which was significantly, just exponentially more positive. Great example here with Fred Clark in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Absolutely crushing it. Told Dale about an incident that occurred with his company, and he said that at one of their production meetings, a vice president was asked very pointed question at one of the production supervisors regarding a production process, and his tone of voice was aggressive, and it was aimed at pointing out faulty performance on the part of the supervisor. You don't want to point out faults. Don't want to be aggressive. If you do, here's what happened. This supervisor did not want to be embarrassed in front of his peers. You got to think about this, right? If you have somebody and you're just hacking them, and maybe they personally feel like they're on top of this pedestal, and you're trying to knock them off this pedestal and throw them on the ground in front of everybody that they know, in front of all their peers, in front of all the people that they actually care about the respect of, you know, and if they feel like these guys see them poorly, then they're going to feel bad about themselves. If you do that, they are going to hate, just despise you. It doesn't matter if you're right. People want to look good in front of their peers. They want to save face. And so the supervisor was evasive in his responses, and after the vice president kind of like lost his temper, started berating the supervisor and accusing him of lying, what happened is any working relationship that might have existed prior to this encounter was destroyed in a few brief moments. The supervisor, who was basically, you know, a good worker, great worker, was useless to the company from that time forward because that single act, that single attack destroyed his pride and confidence and base. And a few months later, he left the firm and went to work for a competitor where he was doing a fine job. A really cool, another class member from Dale's was actually Anna Mazzone, who talked about a similar incident where she approached this challenge differently and got much better results. What happened is she was a marketing specialist for a food packer, and she was given her first major assignment. She was supposed to test market a new product. You know, when the results of the test came in, she was devastated. And the thing is, she made a really big error in her planning for the test. And the entire test had to be done all over again. I mean, it was just destroyed. And to make it worse, this lady had little to no time to discuss it with her boss before the meeting in which she was supposed to report her project. And so when she was called in to give this report, you've got to understand the situation that she was in, because people care about how they are perceived in their environment. So here she is, and she's got her report, and this report has basically like no results that she can actually present. I mean, it's just really harsh. So she's coming into this giant meeting room, and she's got like this big table of board members around her that are like supposed to see this awesome presentation of hers, and here's her new boss waiting for her to do this presentation. And she comes in and she's freaking out, shivering, shaking, just almost crying about because everyone here is a man, and she's like scared that they're gonna think that she can't perform because she's a woman or whatever, sexist stuff. It's not a big deal. It's weird. But the big thing is that she's scared they won't think she can handle her job because she's too emotional, because she wasn't able to create the results here. And so she made her report briefly, and she stated that due to an error, she'd repeat the study for the next meeting. And then she sat down, expecting her boss to explode. Now here's the cool thing. You have two choices. You have two paths you can go down in this situation. The first one is, and this is what most people do, is to scream, to get pissed off, to express how upset you are that they failed and that somebody else did an awful job when you paid them a whole lot of money to do a really great job. That's what most people, that's what every boss I've had done. And then, that's why I don't have bosses anymore. And then you have sort of the second one, except for shareholders. I guess shareholders count as bosses, but I don't know, it depends how you look at it. There's a really, oh my god, so many great books about investing. I'm telling you guys, I could talk all day about it. I really like this one book. It's about creating shareholder value. And it, like, my buddy showed it to me. I love it. Oh my god. Screaming. Okay, and then the second option is to be calm and say, oh, you know what, I'm sorry it didn't happen. That's a shame. I guess we'll have to see what happens after this, and you can go and try it again. And with this first option, what it does is this sort of destroys the connection that the boss has with the worker. And it makes her look very bad in front of everybody else here, and it destroys her public face. I mean, it would just make her look terrible. And then there's this second option where he's just calm and he says, hey, not a big deal, you can do it next time. And what's that gonna do? It's gonna make her look really great in front of everybody, even though she made a mistake. And it's gonna make her feel like she has a very understanding boss, and make her wanna work more, perform more, do more, and have a quality work output, because she knows that her boss cares. And most significantly, she knows that these guys, the people around her, have belief in her, and believe that she can get it done, and believe that she can perform and get the results they need. Because honestly, guys, the biggest factor here is belief. If you can believe in it, I mean, that's huge. You guys know this from the Think Grow Rich course. And so what you want to do is you want to use this calm response, create belief. That's exactly what this boss does. Even though she expected him to explode, instead he thanked her for her work, and remarked that it was not unusual for a person to make an error on a new project, and that it's okay, not your fault, not a big deal, that's a normal thing to happen. And that he had confidence that the repeat survey would be accurate and meaningful company. And he assured her in front of all her colleagues that he had faith in her and knew that she had done all she could, her entire best, everything she had. And it was simply a lack of experience, not a lack of ability, that was the reason for the failure. That's a really great statement you can use. You can say lack of experience probably caused that, not a lack of ability. You want to believe in people and say that they're going to crush it. And as soon as you have that, you are gold. This lady left that meeting with her head up in the air and with the determination she would never let that boss of hers down again. Because here's the deal. That's a really, I just want you guys to understand, that's really positive. That's really awesome. I mean, this lady came and she was an insane worker for the next decade. She absolutely blew it out of the water because her boss had faith in her at the beginning. All you have to do is inject a little bit of faith at the beginning. And if it works out, you're off to the races. If after a month or two it doesn't work, fire. You're done. That's you have to create results. And you guys can kind of, you'll get more used to this once you start to grow, maybe start freelancing. But it's really important that you kind of get this concept. Because it's really critical. Because here's the go. Even if we are right and the other person is definitely wrong, it does not matter. We only destroy ego by causing someone to lose faith. Don't want to make other people lose faith. The legendary French aviator pioneer and the author of this book on flying, he wrote this quote that I think is so phenomenal. He says, "I have no right to say or do anything that diminishes a man in his own eye. Because in the end, what matters is not what I think of him, but what he thinks of himself. Hurting a man in his dignity is a crime." Look at some of the most successful investors on the planet. You guys see Wolf of Wall Street? Like so much of that is very, very strange investing. I mean, it's a little bit different. But it all comes down to confidence. It all comes down to belief that you can do it. You can succeed. And I mean, you see this guy blow it out of the water. Why? Because he has total and complete conviction that he will absolutely crush it. And that's exactly what happened. A real leader will always let the other person save face, because when you give the other person public perception, when you let them save face, it will fundamentally explode the amount of output they create by magnifying their confidence and most significantly elevating them in their own mind so that they can grow and build a ridiculous amount of pride, and it will lead to insane tangible marketplace results. So really big concept. I'm so glad to be able to finalize it in this chapter, and it's one that I know you can use and apply literally for the rest of your life, and it will be a game changer, which is just phenomenal and super exciting. So I hope you guys got a ton of value out of this module. Go out there, apply it, absolutely crush it, and I will see you in the next module. Thanks, bye.